Hi Year 11, this is Miss Baker here, and today I'm going to talk to you about your final design. Now, you, like this student here, have created a final design using lots of detail and tone, but the next stage is to be thinking about your final design and colour. So in terms of your ceramic vessel, you don't really apply paint, but you'll apply glazes. But we need to have a think about what types of colours you're going to want to apply to this. So what I would suggest you do is you go to the Art Resources page under Year 11, and then you've got this section called Ceramic Final Piece. And you can see this is the one that I'm looking at today. You've got all these images here, and then when you scroll to the bottom, you've got these artists such as Kate Malone, Pat Short and Bonnie Belt, and you can see that they all have different colour schemes. So you're going to be looking to these for inspiration when you're thinking about what colours you're going to use, what glazes you're going to employ on your design. And then you'll be looking back to previous artists that we've looked at, like Jim Dine and Leger, and thinking about what colours they've used too. So it's a combination of these artists, these mechanical artists, but also looking at the ceramic artists for ideas. So if I take you back to this drawing here, now what you're going to be doing is, at home you might have tracing paper, but if you don't have tracing paper, then you can use some paper like this, which is actually grease-proof paper or baking tray paper. And what I've done, as you probably already can see, is I've traced the outline. Now just a little recap: when you're tracing, you have to trace that side, then you take it over, turn it over, you draw on the back, and then you return it the correct way around, and you position it, and then you are going to be tracing over the top. Remember, lift it up to check it is actually working. If you've got masking tape at home, you may want to position it, and then that means it won't move out of place. Now, you actually don't need to completely rub over like this. You can actually just draw over the lines. You probably already remember that. But I'm just doing it this way today to make the process a little bit faster. So I've included a fair amount of detail because this is a design idea, but we still want it to be really impressive. We want anybody who sees it, i.e. me, Miss Gallagher, or a moderator, to be really impressed. So therefore, we want colour and tone and detail on these. So I'm just making sure I get everything in. You'll take a bit longer with this. And this kind of like baking tray paper or grease-proof paper, you might actually already have some in your house, in the kitchen, if anyone's interested in doing baking in your house. And if not, it's really easy to get hold of. It's in all supermarkets and some convenience stores, and you can get a roll of it, and it's not expensive at all. So I now have the image underneath, and I'm quite happy with that. You want to press firmly down, but you also want to make sure that your drawing's not too heavy, because you may want to change and adapt it. And also you don't really want really thick outlines to your drawing. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes looking at that and refining any areas, maybe lightening up some of my lines. Just going over some details that I've got, they're a little bit faint. Refining this circle over here too. And then there are some details like these here, which are like natural forms, I guess. They've got some lines through them. So you could either draw them back on in colour, or you could draw them on now. So I don't really mind how you do that. I think it might be easier to add them later in colour though. So I'm quite happy with the outline. It's visible enough for me to see the detail, but it's not too heavy. And then now what I'm going to do, boys, is go back to this page. So this is just a recap, the ceramic final piece page. And then if I scroll down to the bottom, I'm looking at these different artists. Now this one, Kate Malone, if I click on this, you can see she's got quite a controlled colour palette here. We've got greens, golds, a bit of an orangey tone, and then some of these kind of like turquoise and navy blue colours. So it's only a few select colours, but that means that it's quite purposeful. So, bearing that in mind, I think that's the kind of colour palette that I want to go for, or something similar to that anyway. So then if I go back to my visualizer now, I am going to apply a similar colour to this, to these kind of spheres here. So I'm going to start off as we normally would by applying a border to the outline. Just going to make this a bit brighter for you to see. So do my outline first. And then I'm going to do a medium tone. To a light tone. Leaving a highlight in the middle. And then what I'm going to do is the same on these two spheres. But this is going to be go a little bit darker here, because it's sitting behind this sphere. So it's going to cast a bit of a shadow. Again, medium to light, leaving a little highlight in the middle. And then finally this sphere here. Border first, applying tone in circular motion so it's really nice and smooth. And then doing a dark tone because it's furthest away from us and there's a shadow being cast on it. And then having a medium tone. And then eventually fading into a highlight. Now I'm quite happy with those colours, but I think it was Kate Malone, and she used quite a dark turquoise and navy blue tone. So I'm going to add a little bit of green, do a bit of colour mixing to make it a bit more interesting. So I'm just simply applying a light shade of green over the top of my blue there. And I think I'm going to add a slightly darker tone to this sphere. So I've got a bit dark with the green, and I'm going to go a little bit darker with the blue too. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. Now, the next thing I think I'm going to do is I'd like to add a bit of that yellow gold tone, like Kate Malone, at the top here, at the top of the vessel. So I'm going to start off again with my border. All the way around. Then I'm just going to add, using circular motion on the side of my pencil, a light yellow tone. Now you have to just be careful because we've got the pencil tone there and I don't want that to smudge into the yellow, so I'd recommend that you maybe work around those pencil lines, so don't go completely over the top of them, otherwise they may smudge. And because you are doing a light yellow tone there, you may want to get your rubber and rub out that pencil tone as best you can, but so that you still can see the outline. So it's not too late for us to do that. Okay. Right, so this sort of like rim section here, what I am going to do is I'm going to add a darker tone around the outside of that so that it looks like that is in the foreground and that's slightly in the background. So adding a darker tone of yellow, and then inside the vessel I'm going to go darkest here and then getting lighter as they go up, the same as this but with yellow. See, I'm still using circular motion as well because it creates a nicer smooth finish. And then what I'm going to do is add a bit of orange over the top to create a darker tone and show some colour mixing. And then again, I'm going to make this slightly darker and fade it outwards. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. And then the next thing is, I guess, to think about what I might do to this area here. So if we go back, and to me, they look a little bit like an orange. That's what it looks like to me. So what I'm going to do is, I think again I'm going to add sort of like a light yellow tone over the top of all of these. So you can see I just again rubbed out any really dark marks, because it just tends to look a bit muddy when you're using yellow. Apologies. So I've applied a light yellow tone all over the top of here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start using a bit of orange as well. So I'm applying the orange to the inner sections. It doesn't have to look exactly like orange segments here. I'm not even 100% sure if that's what the student was trying to achieve, but it's just given us a bit of inspiration. So the next thing that I'm doing is adding a bit of detail with a darker tone of orange to these segments here. So I'm drawing on. I'm going to zoom in a little bit for you actually. So I'm drawing now using my colour pencil, adding a line and then fading it out a little bit, adding another line, fading it out a bit, another line, so it kind of looks like the veins that you might find in an orange. And then I'm going to add some over here too. So add a line, fade it out, add another line, fade it out, another line, and another line. Okay, so now what we have, we've got some lovely orangey yellow tones on the top here, and then some here, and we've got some nice sort of turquoisey tones here. So what I think would be good would be to have maybe some more of these kind of like turquoisey tones. And if we think about it, they're up here, so it would be good to have some on the opposite side to balance out the colour. And that would also fit in with Leger, because Leger used lots of bright, bold blue colours. So I'm going to have this, which looks like it's either a Leger or Kupka shape. And in fact, I think it probably is Kupka. And he used a lot of blues and reds within his paintings. So I'm going to have this in that kind of shade. So again, probably the best, you might not need to, but it's probably best to draw the outline So you make sure that you don't go outside the lines. And then you can just relax and use circular motion. And then that looks fine. It's quite neat and accurate, but it's a little bit flat. So to give it a bit more definition, I'm going to go a little bit darker around the edge. This also helps it to look a bit more three-dimensional. Now you could also do, if you wanted to, some colour mixing on this shape as well, or you could just keep it simple. I think I would advise that you can do colour mixing and tone, but I wouldn't overcomplicate your colour palette. I'd probably keep it to about 5 or 6 different colours. I wouldn't go much further than that. So it just makes it look a little bit more interesting. Now, the next stage, I guess, is to consider what we're going to do with this. Right, so we're going to decide what we're going to do with this section now. So it looks a little bit like, well, I think it is meant to be kind of a crack in the pot. So if it is, in fact, a crack in the pot, then you might have some of these colours coming through. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to, first of all, make sure we've got a sharp pencil, and then we are going to do the outline, the border, all the way around, and fill all of this with a light yellow tone again, using circular motion. And then this looks like, this is like a little bit of an edge. So what we need to do is add some darker tones to that area. So I'm going to go a little bit darker with my yellow here, because this is going deeper into the pot. Then I'm going to layer over with a bit of orange, create that darker tone. And then fade it. So we're going to continue adding the dark orange tone to the outside to make sure that this looks like a hole or a crack in the vessel. And then we sharpen my pencil a little bit more. We want this to kind of look a little bit like an edge. So therefore we need to go a little bit darker on the outside there. I'm just going to zoom in a bit more. So dark and then fading outwards. Dark and fade outwards. Dark and fade outwards. All the way around the edge. And if we wanted to go even darker, we could add a little hint of red here to the inside. Just fade that outwards. Again, using circular motion. And then I might carry this on, but use my orange. So I'm just going to zoom out. So I'm going to carry this sort of like crack on in orange. Use a nice sharp pencil. And then go over that with red to make it really stand out. I quite like that combination of colour, and you could even decide that you want to add a little tiny bit of red to this here to make it really stand out. Right, so in this section up here on this boy's final design, you can see it looks like he's got like lots of little dots on top of a slightly shaded background. So what we're going to do for that area, what I'd like to do is I'd like to stick with my blues and green tones. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to this time go for a light, maybe a light green up here, because this is blue. So again, just going to do my outline first of all. And like this boy has done, he's only gone up to about here with his points. It's like he's done pointillism. So I'm only going to go up to about there too. So I'm going to do a light green. Do my border first, then I'm doing my circular motion. A light green. Then again, border first. I'm going a lot faster than you would. And this probably will take you a few lessons to do if you do it properly, because you've got to trace it out and then you've got to think about your colours carefully, and you've got to show tone and colour blending. So then I'm just fading this outwards. And I'm just going to fade that as well. I might have that green go over to actually meet the spheres. So again, a little bit of a border. And just fade that out. You don't have to completely fill all of the background, because with your ceramic pots you might not want to paint every bit, put glaze on every bit. You might want spaces that remain blank and untouched. So again, I'm just going lighter and lighter. And also, if you do too much to the background, you're going to detract from the objects in the foreground. So I'm quite happy with that, but around this shape, to show that this is on the foreground, I'm going to add a slightly darker shadow. And then I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow underneath here. Because there would be a little bit of a shadow there cast from this rim, this bit that's coming out. And you could add a little bit of green around here because this pointillism effect does trail down here. So again, border. And just going to add a little bit more tone there. So we've got tone, we've got colour blending, and we've got pointillism. So now I think what I'll do is I'll just, in this section here, you probably wouldn't really see any of the dots, but on the lighter sections you may. So I'm going to add a few of them. Okay, so you get the idea. And then I think if we look at the whole pot now on the vessel, just get it into position for you so you can see the whole thing. Okay, so I think now I'm happy with that, but we've got quite a lot. We've got colour up here, and then we haven't really got much down here. So again, to balance that out, I might decide to use another colour down there. So we've got quite a lot of this sort of like orangey yellow hues going on, and then we've got a lot of green up here now. So what I might do is have a little bit of a touch of blue down here. So again, I think I'll go for a slightly lighter shade of blue. Start from my border. And then fade out my blue. And I think I'll just have it mainly in this corner. But what I can also do is just add a little touch around the edges here and here, and just fade it out quite quickly. So it's helping to show form, but we don't have to, like I said previously, fill the whole thing. And then so that these orange segments stand out, I'm going to draw a little bit of a blue border around them, merging into this green colour, and then just fade that tone out quite quickly. So it's not covering the whole thing, but it's helping them to look a bit more three-dimensional. Thinking about that, we might need to add a bit of a darker orange tone there to show that this one's sitting on top of this one. Then maybe these would cast a bit of a shadow onto the segments. You could even add a little bit of a hint of red there, just to make it slightly bolder if you wanted to. We know that oranges don't really, well, the orange segment we saw before didn't really have reds in, but you can get blood oranges. And not everything has to look completely realistic. So lastly, I think I'm just going to add a little bit more of this blue, which I used up here and here, to make it all integrated. And I'm going to just add it to the corner here, fade it outwards. So it's all coming together now. So I'm quite happy with that overall colour scheme. I've only used 4, 5 colours tops there. And I'm not going to do anything to this middle section here because I don't want to overcomplicate it. Only last thing that I might do is add a touch of green around here. Just again, to show that that's three-dimensional, that shape there. And on this side, very little bit. Okay, I hope that's helped and given you some ideas and just gone through some techniques with you too. Good luck, and I look forward to seeing what you create. Thank you very much.